In the forgotten corners of rural America, where cornfields whisper secrets and fog swallows the stars, some roads are more than just paths. They're gateways to the unknown. State Route 33 in Ohio is one such road, a desolate stretch where locals swear the air grows heavy at midnight. They tell tales of lost souls, of figures that appear in the mist and vanish without a trace. This is the story of Jake, a mechanic from Columbus who drove that road one October night in 2025 and met something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The fog was thick that night, curling over the asphalt of State Route 33 like ghostly fingers. Jake, a 28-year-old mechanic with grease-stained hands and tired eyes, gripped the wheel of his battered pickup truck. He'd been pulling double shifts at the garage all week, saving for a new apartment to escape his crumbling rental. The dashboard clock glowed 12:03 a.m., its green light the only thing cutting through the darkness. The radio had fizzed out miles back, leaving only the hum of tires and the occasional rustle of corn stalks in the wind. Jake's headlights barely pierced the fog, illuminating patches of cracked pavement and the endless bows of corn that flanked the road. He was 10 miles from home, somewhere between nowhere and nowhere else, when he saw her. A woman stood on the shoulder, her pale dress glowing faintly in the beam of his lights. Her dark hair hung over her face, limp and wet, like she'd been caught in a storm. No coat, no bag, just her thumb raised in a silent plea for a ride. He slowed, his heart thudding. His mom's warnings about strangers echoed in his head, but the woman looked young, maybe in her 20s, and something about her stillness felt wrong. Too still, like a statue caught in time. He pulled over, gravel crunching under his tires, and rolled down the window. "Hey, you okay? Need a ride?" She didn't speak, just nodded and climbed into the passenger seat with a slow, deliberate grace. Her movements were off, like a puppet with half-cut strings. Jake caught a glimpse of her hands, pale, almost translucent, with dirt caked under her nails like she'd clawed her way out of the earth. A faint smell filled the cab, damp soil mixed with something sharp and metallic, like old blood. He swallowed hard, trying to shake the unease. "Where you headed?" "Millersburg," she said, her voice a low rasp like dry leaves scraping together. Her eyes stayed fixed on the road, never meeting his, her head tilted as if listening to something beyond the hum of the engine. "All right, that's not too far," Jake said, forcing a smile. He pulled back onto the road, the fog swallowing the truck whole. The heater was on full blast, but the cab felt colder now, his breath clouding in the air. He tried to fill the silence. "So, what's your name? You from around here?"
No answer. Just the faint, rhythmic tap of her nails on the armrest. A sound that burrowed into Jake's skull. He glanced at her. Her head was still tilted, her hair falling like a curtain over her face. The tapping grew louder, more insistent, and he swore he heard the faint hum, a low, tuneless melody that made his skin prickle. "You sure you're okay?" he asked, his voice cracking. The air felt heavy now, pressing against his chest like a weight. She didn't respond, just kept tapping, her fingers moving in a pattern that felt too precise, too deliberate. He gripped the wheel tighter, his knuckles whitening. The road stretched on. The fog so thick it was like driving through a dream. Jake's mind wandered to the stories he'd heard growing up, tales of Route 33, of drivers who saw things in the mist. His buddy Tom had once sworn he saw a figure in a white dress vanish into the corn, but Jake had left it off, blaming cheap whiskey. Now, with her sitting beside him, those stories didn't seem so funny. 10 minutes later, a faded sign for Millersburg loomed out the fog. "Almost there," Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Where exactly you need to go?" "Left," she said, her voice sharper now, cutting through the silence like a blade. She pointed to a narrow dirt road branching off into the cornfields, swallowed by darkness. No streetlights, no houses, just the endless sea of stalks swaying in the wind. Jake's stomach twisted. "You sure? That road don't look like it leads anywhere." His foot hovered over the brake, but the air seemed to thicken, pinning him in place. "Left," she repeated, her voice a hiss. Her head turned slowly, and for the first time her eyes met his. They were wrong. Too dark, too empty. Like twin voids carved into her face. Jake's heart slammed against his ribs, a cold sweat breaking out across his skin. He wanted to scream, to throw open the door and run, but his hands were locked on the wheel, his body refusing to obey. He turned left. The dirt road was barely wide enough for the truck, corn stalks scathing the sides like skeletal fingers. The fog grew denser, his headlights flickering as if struggling to stay alive. The woman's humming started again, low and tuneless, weaving through the creak of the truck's suspension. Jake's eyes darted to the rearview mirror, and for a split second, he thought he saw shapes in the fog. Tall, thin figures moving between the stalks, their outlines blurring into the mist. His throat tightened. "What the hell is this place?" he muttered, more to himself than to her. The humming stopped abruptly, and the silence that followed was worse, deafening, suffocating. The dashboard clock flickered, the numbers glitching between 12:03 and static.
"Stop here," she said suddenly, her voice cold and final. They were in the middle of nowhere, the road ending at a clearing where a single wooden cross stood, weathered and leaning, half buried in the dirt. Jake slammed on the brakes, his hands trembling so badly he could barely hold the wheel. "Listen, I don't," he started, turning to face her, but the passenger seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. The seatbelt was still buckled, hanging limp. The air reeked of earth and blood, stronger now, choking him. His breath came in shallow gasps as he stared at the empty seat, his mind screaming that this wasn't possible. Then he saw it, a single, muddy footprint on the floor mat, wet and glistening as if she'd just stepped out of a grave. Jake floored the gas, the truck lurching forward, tires spinning in the dirt. He didn't stop until he hit the main road, his chest heaving, his hands shaking so badly he could barely steer. When he finally pulled over, his phone buzzed with a news alert. His fingers fumbled as he opened it, the screen casting a pale glow on his sweat-soaked face. It was a local article, dated October 18th, 2015, 10 years ago to the day. A young woman named Sarah, hitchhiking to Millersburg in a pale dress, had been killed in a hit-and-run on State Route 33. The driver, drunk and speeding, left her body crumpled by a dirt road, marked only by a wooden cross. Locals claimed her spirit lingered, appearing to drivers on foggy nights, her empty eyes searching for something, or someone. Jake's blood ran cold. He looked at the passenger seat again. The footprint was still there, but now, in the dim light of his phone, he saw something else. Faint scratches on the armrest, like claw marks, where her nails had been tapping. He didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those empty eyes, heard that tuneless hum. A week later, he sold the truck, but not before finding one last thing. A single strand of long dark hair tangled in the seatbelt, damp and smelling of earth. Have you ever encountered something unexplainable on a lonely road? Comment your name, city, and state below to share your story.